Welcome back to our channel where we get into important conversations that demand our attention. Today we are tackling a critical issue, the search for justice surrounding a horrific event involving two indigenous women. Recently, a Canadian woman sparked controversy by suggesting that white people should participate in the search for their remains, which may have been concealed in landfills. This call to action stirred up a heated debate, with many questioning its motives. But amidst the uproar lies a crucial discussion about the need for collective responsibility and solidarity in the pursuit of justice. Stick around as we get into the arguments presented and explore why this conversation is not just important but essential for our society. In today's video, we'll explore the compelling argument made by the Canadian woman advocating for Palm Colored's involvement in the search for the remains of the two indigenous women. We'll examine her reasoning, offering our perspectives on whether to agree, disagree, or propose alternative approaches. If you're ready for this conversation, hit that like button and let's get started.
A few days ago, I posted a video saying white people need to step up and email Heather Stephenson and get the Manitoba landfill searched. And for the most part, a lot of people were on board supporting the cause, and I was very impressed. However, there were quite a few comments that were horrific. So we're gonna go over them so white people can pull their bootstraps up and start doing a bit better. I want to start with "it's not our fault" and "stop being racist towards white people." There were quite a few people that kind of fell into those categories. And first things first, you can't be racist to white people. Western society was built on a power dynamic that put white people at the top and everyone else underneath. And until the system itself has been decolonized, white people will still be at the top and still benefit, whether or not you see it in your everyday. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It exists and it's the truth. And if that truth triggers you, you have some unpacking to do. Along the lines of "it's not white people's fault," there were quite a lot of people who were trying to justify the fact that we're not searching the landfills by saying those women were sex workers, as if that changes their inherent value as a human being, as if they're not living in a society that is created in such a way that socioeconomic conditions are so unfavorable for Indigenous people that in order to survive, they have to engage in sex work. Like, you have to understand there's a cause and effect for everything when you zoom out. And the thing is, it doesn't matter who did the crime or why the crime happened. The issue is that systematically these crimes are happening against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people because the conditions of society have created an environment that permit that kind of crime. White people can go and hurt Indigenous people and a lot of the time either get a lesser punishment or not face accountability at all. And it's specifically because of white society that these conditions are in place. Everything Indigenous people have, they have because they fought tooth and nail to get it back from the people who stole it from them in the first place. White people stole it from them in the first place, then put their government system in place and said, you have to follow our rules now because we're in control now. Indigenous people don't have treaty rights because of the goodness of white people's hearts. They have them because they fought, because they organized, because grassroots organizations rose up and did the hard work it took to protect themselves and protect their futures. So get out of here with that. It's not white people's fault. It is white people's fault. And if that hurts you, again, if that triggers you, if you feel guilt, you should. You should feel guilt because there's accountability that needs to be had. And there should be a little bit of guilt because your ancestors did cause this. That's maybe harsh, but I think it's extremely important that you hear it. If you feel it, go unpack that. Okay? Go do that work. Go do that work. We want you to be part of society. We want you to be here. We love you, but we don't love your racism. We don't like your internalized bigotry. We don't like the covert, quiet, silent discrimination that Canadians do. I also want to clarify, I am specifically talking to white people because it's not my place to talk to people of color and tell them how to do better because they are doing phenomenally. White people are not doing so well. Progress is halted because of white people right now, and if you're not part of the solution, you are part of the problem. Silence, compliance is violence. Next, families should pay for the search, and it's not feasible. It's feasible. We have searched landfills in the past for human remains. We actually have done so fervently because we understand intrinsically how wrong it is to leave human remains in a landfill when we know they're there and we know that they were victims of horrific crimes and their families deserve justice. These are people. These are human lives. These are human families. These are people who are part of your community. And they deserve it just as much as any other person. If you think that they don't deserve it, you're being right. And no, their families shouldn't pay for this. Colonial society should pay for this because colonial society is the reason for the crisis. There was a small group of people that were like, I'm white and I care. Good for you. There's no badge. That's the bare minimum. Like, it's not cute saying, I have an Indigenous friend, so I'm not part of the problem. That statement made you part of the problem, okay? The fact that you feel you need to say you're not part of the problem makes you part of the problem. That's something you need to look at. That's a trigger that you need to unpack. I see you. You're doing good. That's awesome. But you don't need an attaboy for being a decent human being. That is the bare minimum. Caring about this is the bare minimum. I'm not gonna attaboy you because you're out in public yelling, I'm not right. What? If you're not right, you don't need to say that. If you're not part of the problem, you don't need to be like, I'm not part of the problem. It's not good. It's not a good use of our time or energy or resources or anything, okay? No one's here to pat you on the back and tell you, I know you're a good white person. If you know you're a good white person, then you're fine. Keep living. Keep supporting Indigenous people. Keep supporting all of the causes. Don't center yourself. This isn't about you. You're doing the bare minimum. Again, that's harsh. Like, it's so good that you're part of the cause and you're on board, but you're centering yourself and it's a problem. To the people who told me I'm only doing this for clout, no, this is something that I really, really care about. The majority of my education has been in the history of Canada and in Indigenous literature. I'm an English major and a history minor, and these are things I study in university. So this is something that is far more than just a couple of videos on the internet, but I will say I was unsure, and I am still unsure about whether or not this is the right place for me to be. If I'm taking up space I shouldn't be taking up, and that's for Indigenous people to tell me. If they think that I'm encroaching on something, that I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing, I want to hear it, I want to do better. However, I think that this narrative that like you're just looking for views by talking about this is something that's actually discouraging white people from talking about it. Because as soon as you talk about it, you're attention seeking. So you can't talk about it because you don't want to be accused of being a white savior, but you want to talk about it because you care and you want to support them, but you can't talk about it. You see how it's like kind of an icky thing? It's stopping people from being able to be actively supporting. See what I'm saying? And look, again, if the white person or the person who's advocating truly is centering themselves in a place that they shouldn't be, then that person should be held accountable and they should learn. If I'm doing it, I should be held accountable and I should learn. But I genuinely believe that I am advocating out of like love and like support. So I don't think that's why I'm here. I'm quite confident that I really, really just think that this is like the worst situation, and it like blows my mind that like most of Canada is just sitting back like, this is normal. Like, what? I think collectively, our country has a lot of healing that it needs to do, and just like every relationship, it's a series of ruptures and repairs. But the thing is, until we can acknowledge and have an honest discourse about the rupture that occurred and is still occurring, we're not going to be able to do the repair work needed for us to move forward. And the problem is white people are just coming in and being like, why can't you just move forward? When we haven't even said sorry yet. Like, we haven't even done what's needed to apologize. We haven't even done what's needed to stop the harm. Of course they can't move on. Like, what is wrong with you? I'm making this video because I am genuinely trying to help. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for your support. I really, really appreciate it. Go email Heather Stephenson and tell her to search the landfills. Have a great day, guys!
So now that we've seen the video that started this discussion, it is a tragic event, of course, but some people in her comment section were arguing that it's not their fault and so they shouldn't participate in the search or putting their resources together. Now, the question that I have is that who in their right mind would say that? Right? It's only a person that is not concerned, only a person with no heart or no moral high ground in this case, and this can only be seen from one group of people. And we're not even going to get into the discussion of why these people are like that. Now, this response highlights the importance of cultural understanding and awareness. Culture shapes our mindset and fosters empathy towards others' suffering. The individuals making such remarks don't have a cultural framework that promotes compassion and solidarity. While some may accuse the call for participation as discriminatory, it is essential to recognize that discrimination towards palm-coloreds is unfounded, considering their historical position of privilege. Such comments underscore the need for education and empathy in addressing societal issues. Now, let's get into the details surrounding this horrific event. In a tragic turn of events, the search for justice for Morgan Harris and Mercedes Marian, two indigenous women believed to have been unalived last year, has sparked a contentious debate surrounding a proposed landfill search. The proposal to search the Brady Road landfill for the remains of Harris and Marian emerged as authorities suspected their remains had been disposed of in a garbage bin and subsequently sent to Prairie Green landfill. A feasibility study was conducted to assess the viability of finding the remains. However, it revealed a grim reality. The search process would be complex and could pose significant long-term health and safety risks to workers. Moreover, there was no guarantee that the remains would have been recovered. Facing a difficult decision, Premier Heather Stephenson, after meeting with some relatives of the victim, opted against proceeding with the landfill search. She emphasized the paramount importance of worker safety and acknowledged the emotional toll such a search without the certainty of recovery would exact on the families. The decision sparked mixed reactions, with some family members expressing anger and disappointment, feeling that it was disrespectful and re-traumatizing. They had hoped for an exhaustive search but faced formidable challenges due to health and safety concerns. Premier Stephenson clarified, while the province wouldn't financially support the search, they wouldn't impede it if the federal government stepped in with sufficient safeguards and support. Now that we've seen the situation we have at hand, there's one perspective that emerged in her comment section. The fact that these people were workers and that resources were not needed to be allocated in their search because of that fact is so absurd, and it just shows you how these people are so discriminatory towards marginalized communities. You see, the fact is that most of the things that are happening in marginalized communities and in many countries that are poor are as a result of the resources that are being taken away from those countries and the fact that justice is not given to them. In this case, money resources are not given in turn or in exchange of those resources. And as a result, most of these marginalized communities experience a lot of crime rates and working activities because of such exploitations. But many palm-coloreds cannot see that. Why? Because they refuse to be awakened to the truth. Another perspective emerged that highlights the justice system tends to treat crimes differently based on the race of the perpetrator. Palm-color individuals often receive lenient punishments or escape accountability altogether due to systemic biases. This systemic favoritism towards palm-color individuals extends to socio-economic opportunities, exacerbating disparities in access to resources and protection from consequences. Consequently, demands for justice in cases involving marginalized communities are amplified as they face disproportionate hardships exacerbated by systemic inequalities. The Canadian lady's plea for assistance from the palm-color community in funding the landfill search stems from a recognition of these systemic injustices and seeks to bridge the gap in resources and support needed to address them. To those who speculate about her involvement, she emphasizes her genuine passion for advocating for justice, racial equality, and combating discrimination. She believes it is crucial for individuals, especially from the palm-color community, to cultivate a similar passion for social justice issues. Every voice, regardless of background, plays a role in shaping the world and addressing societal battle injustices. She encourages people to pursue their passions and advocate for change, despite potential judgment or criticism. Ultimately, she urges individuals not to succumb to guilt or fear, but relentlessly pursue their dreams and contribute positively to making the world a better place. Her example serves as a reminder that determination and commitment can lead to meaningful impact and personal fulfillment. I think this is the blueprint to combating racial injustices. You see, palm-colored people want to help, at least some of them want to help, but they fear this notion that goes around that you can't combat racial injustice without being discriminatory towards palm-coloreds. Now, the thing is that they think that when you're trying to dismantle it, in a process, you can't do that without being discriminatory towards them. You might end up finding yourself being racist towards white people, when in fact, the thing is that you cannot be racially biased towards them because they are the originators of that. As we conclude our exploration on the controversy surrounding the landfill search, it is clear that Heather Stephenson's decision has sparked impassionate reactions and raised important questions about justice, safety, and empathy. While opinions may differ, one thing remains certain: the need for dialogue, understanding, and collective action in addressing the complexities of such cases. Let us remember that each voice and each perspective plays a crucial role in shaping our society. By coming together, acknowledging our differences, and striving for solutions rooted in compassion and justice, we can move closer to a world where every individual's rights and dignity are respected. Thank you for joining us on this important conversation. Until next time, let's continue to stand up for what's right and work towards a brighter future for all.